What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news concerning Adrian the Problem Broner. You know, Adrian Broner has lashed out at Keith Thurman because, of course, Keith Thurman had a lot to say about a lot of fighters, including Adrian Broner and Jeff Horn and Terrence Crawford and whoever that he could name drop. And Adrian Broner simply stated like, hey, why don't you get your story straight? You're a guy that it seems like to me you're just using my name to boost your popularity because you ain't been in the game for ages. Now, part of what Adrian Broner is saying is true. I think that Keith Thurman does talk a lot about fighters that he hasn't fought. He questions their credibility in the ring, and he hasn't fought them. And Keith Thurman hasn't done anything lately besides get in a tough battle with Josecito Lopez. And that fight could have been stopped, honestly. He took a lot of punishment in that fight. I know it was this get-back fight. I understand that. But, at that moment, he won. But at that moment, he needs to realize that, hey, I need to fight some of these guys that I mentioned to prove to everyone that, hey, one time is still back. One time can still make knockouts, and one time can still dominate the welterweight division. But back to Adrian Broner, he just said that people like to hate on him and being African American, they don't support their own. If he was Mexican, he would be a superstar. But a potential fight did brew up, okay? Now, that would be a good fight between Adrian Broner and Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman did say he wanted 2 tune-ups. If he thinks that Adrian Broner is about bullshit, why don't he be a second tune-up? You know what I mean? Easy said, easy done, easy peasy. Because it's one of those things where if you're talking and criticizing a fighter that, hey, he's not on my level, he's not the same fighter that he used to be. But then yet you've been out the ring for 2 years and you need an opponent. This is your get-back year, which last year was supposed to have been your get-back year, right? Okay, better late than never. Fair enough. Fight Adrian Broner. Because if he's not going to fight Sean Porter, I would like to see Keith Thurman fight someone new. I'm all about new matchups. I'm not about rematches, especially when these fights... And don't get me wrong, Sean Porter and Keith Thurman was a good fight, but the way I see that fight, I see Keith Thurman digging in deep. However, I would like to see Keith Thurman be at his 100% so there won't be any excuses at the end of the day. Because a lot of times when a fighter loses, all he has is excuses, okay? And one thing I want to add to this is, Adrian Broner, stated that I never turned down a fight. If I would have start turning down fights, I would have never lost. Let that sink in. I find that very interesting that Adrian Broner said that because he did fight the best fights. He wanted to fight, what was his name? I can't remember right now. But he fought everyone. He fought Mikey Garcia. He fought Sean Porter. He fought Manny Pacquiao. He fought Marcos Maidana. He fought a lot of fighters, and he didn't turn down any fights. You never heard of Adrian Broner ducking fights. So he is not the typical PBC fighter. I do give him that. He's never been knocked out. He's been dropped a couple times, okay, against Maidana. He never had the luxury or the satisfaction or the opportunity rather to face or to avenge his loss to Maidana. But he was going to take on a lot of fighters. So I apply that to a lot of fighters that do turn down fights, that duck fights, and then they're still undefeated. And Adrian Broner just stated, hey, if I was that dude that started turning down fights and ducking fights, I would still have an undefeated record. And I believe him because too many fighters do that same thing. Too many fighters do that same thing. And it's crazy. And you see it happening and you see it's done. You know, a lot of fighters beforehand that follow that same tactic of ducking fighters. You know, it's sad because now these new fighters are doing that same thing, you know, and we don't need that. We don't need that in the sport of boxing. Let's see. What's his name? I just woke up, guys, so you got to forgive me. Not everything's coming to me right now. Damn. But anyway, Adrian Broner's fought a lot of fighters because I forgot the fighter's name that I was looking for. And I'll remember it, of course, when I stopped the video. But he was going to fight him too, and that looked like a typical beatdown. No, it's going to bother me until I find out who it is. Let's see. Okay. Guerrero, that's it. Guerrero. Okay, Guerrero boxer, because I know he fought Robert Guerrero and beat the piss out of him. Omar Figueroa. Adrian Broner was going to take on Omar Figueroa. Do you know what type of fight that would have been? A guy that comes forward like that. A guy that rips punches to the body and the head. You know, the only person that's going to really beat Omar Figueroa is Omar Figueroa. You know what I mean? That's the only person that I see beating him. You know what I mean? And the fight got canceled because he went to jail, and Adrian went to jail. Both of these guys went to jail, so the fight was canceled. But the point I'm trying to make, guys, is Adrian Broner never ducked any fighter. Most fighters would not fight Omar Figueroa. You know what I'm saying? That fight wouldn't have been made at all. You know, you see all these guys running around, and they don't fight the top guys. Did you see Danny Garcia want to fight Figueroa? Keith Thurman want to fight Figueroa? Sean Porter, did he want to fight Figueroa? Now, mind you, Omar Figueroa is undefeated, okay? And he's a guy that, okay, I hate BoxRec, but anyway, he's a guy that gets avoided by a lot of fighters. And Adrian Broner was going to take him on, so that should show you the balls, at least, that Adrian Broner has versus those other guys. But that's probably why he's made more money than the other guys, because he was an amazing prodigy, and he had a lot of potential on top of that, you know. But in the later years, his career he has had a good career, you know. So I'm gonna leave you with that. You guys tell me what you think about Keith Thurman and Adrian Broner being a possible matchup. Of course, please subscribe, and you guys been counterpunched. Peace.